Let's focus a bit on nutrient timing and its potential for optimizing training adaptations, recovery, and other parameters like health and immune system.
So, I'm really glad you brought up the immune system, because to me, when we often have these conversations around nutrient timing, especially when what they really mean is protein timing, much of it is just focused, like we said before, on hypertrophy and maybe strength to some degree. But it misses the areas where protein also goes to facilitate things, neurotransmitters, the immune system in terms of what it does to the cytokine pathways and the ability for immune system response. And carbohydrates play a role here too, because there's plenty of studies now that have shown that feeding carbohydrate after an intense workout closes that window of immunocompromise, right? So it helps shrink that quite a bit. And so when you're in a scenario with high training demands or high environmental stress and things like that, the ability to facilitate immune function shouldn't be ignored in this, right? And I think we forget that protein doesn't just go to making bigger muscles, right? It plays a key role in enzymes, in a number of blood markers, especially hemoglobin. When you look at, iron carrying molecules that are, protein based, you look at, again, we miss the finer points of that. And I think that's where that concept of using this to get the most out of your training and recovery is so critical, because it's one of those things that it just speeds up your ability to do this again. And I would argue, especially now that I'm definitely on the old side of old, at least I feel like it, I would say this is something that we really should very much pay attention to as we age, because that recovery actually does get more challenging, right? When you start looking at everything from anabolic resistance to, preventing any degree of sarcopenia and the role that it interplays with training, I would say in that case, it's worth paying attention to. Again, it doesn't have to be all you pay attention to, but why not make it a part of your nutritional strategy? It's really not that complicated. I mean, it's really not. I think that's the part that maybe frustrates me the most is when people kind of crap on nutrient timing and it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's like, but it's not even complicated to implement. Like it's not that hard to do. They make it sound like remembering to have a shake after your workout might be the biggest demand on your time that was ever created. Like powder in a mixer, add some water, we're good, right? Like we scored. And so it's the fact that it's really not that complicated. And I know for us, when we work with like our college athletes, just teaching them how simple that is to do carries over, right? Good habits are as hard to break as bad habits. So when you start to build these things in, it just becomes part of what you do from a strategy standpoint.